name is Brenda Ingram-Best, and I have lived in Ivory City since 1965. I attended Crummell. I worked summer jobs at Crummell, and I graduated from Crummell. We're fighting for what we used to have, because now we have nothing. Kids have nowhere to play. They play in the street. They hitting your car with balls and all that, and you can't fuss at them, because where they going?
My name is Antoine Williams. I'm an Ivory City native, basically. I grew up here. My family been here a long time. So we fighting for community space, like a public space for the community, playgrounds, basketball court, green space, just a safe place for the kids to play and be after school. They won't have to be playing in the streets.
We got the legacy, Ivy City forever be pushing on, pushing on. We got the legacy, DC will forever be pushing on, pushing on.
It's been a long time coming, and there's still a ways to go. This battle has been multi-generational. This is my message for the corporations. Don't use Crummell's history for decoration. Nike can have an outlet to sell some shoes. Why can't the kids around the corner have an outlet too? Hip and funky bars, but no monkey bars. There's an organic store that people can afford in their backyard. They trying to change Ivy City. The writing is on the wall, but let's make it graffiti. We make the struggle look so pretty. You can almost forget about the nitty gritty. We living on borrowed time and sacred land. If you choose to walk the path, you gotta take a stand.
Yes. Greetings, everyone. Hello. I want to thank you for joining us today for our rally calling on Mayor Bowser to fix Crummell now, all caps. My name is Sabrina Rhodes, and I live within feet of the Crummell School in Ivy City. I'm a leader with Empower DC and Friends of Crummell School. And I was recently elected to serve as Ivy City's next ANC commissioner. Today, you will hear from a number of residents and supporters about why fixing the Alexander Crummell School now must be a priority for the city and the mayor. 109 years ago today, the school opened in Ivy City to serve Black children. It was the heart of Ivy City, and we have suffered ever since the city closed the school in 1977. 4 years ago, Mayor Bowser chose a developer who she planned to give the land to a private developer in exchange for renovation of the school for public use. But the plan has failed, and 4 years later, we as a community are left waiting with no end in sight. We are asking the mayor to stop holding us hostage and the failed development deal and to move forward with a city-funded renovation of the school to serve as a needed community center, park, and play space. Please join us in calling on the mayor to fix Crummell now by going to empowerdc.org/fix_Crummell_now to send her a tweet. We can all do that now. If you're watching this on social media, please share on all your social media accounts and encourage others to watch as well. Right now, I want to welcome our first speaker, Reverend Gail Fisher Stewart, Rector of St. Luke's Episcopal Church.
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon now. I am the interim pastor of the historically Black St. Luke's Episcopal Church in the Episcopal Diocese of Washington and president of the Alexander Crummell Julia Cooper chapter of the Union of Black Episcopalians. And I thank you for the opportunity to be here today. As someone who was born and raised in DC, I have seen changes. The destruction of Black communities and the urban renewal of Southwest when Blacks were uprooted, the fact that it took 50 years for H Street to come back, and when it came back, it was all about gentrification. And there are other examples. And here we have the Crummell School, which was part of a vibrant Black community that has been permitted to languish. But as history shows us, it will only languish until gentrification takes hold, but we need to change that direction. And as we head toward Thanksgiving, it is providential that we are here today, and that ground was broken in July 1876 for St. Luke's, and the first service was held Thanksgiving Day, 1879. We were and currently remain at 15th and Peace Streets Northwest. Our church was designed by Calvin T.S. Brent, the first Black architect in Washington, D.C. And our church, St. Luke's, was the dream of the Reverend Dr. Alexander Crummell, and we continue to lift him up. I mean, he was born March 3rd, 1819, into a family committed to the anti-slavery cause, and he could trace his family back to African royalty. He was educated in American schools, and one school in New Hampshire, he and another Black person had to leave. Why? Because racists tied a rope around the school and pulled the school into the lake. He felt a call to ministry and applied to General Theological Seminary in New York, an Episcopal seminary, and it is still in New York, still operating. But he was denied entrance because of his race. I mean, that's good Christians for you. He studied privately in 1844, had the equivalent of a seminary education, and he was admitted to the Episcopal priesthood. In New York City, he attempted to plant a religious mission for the Black community, but was unsuccessful. And he was encouraged to go to England to raise the necessary funds, which he did. And while he was there, he attended Queen's College in Cambridge, England, and he graduated in 1853. And when he graduated, with the exception of W.B. Du Bois, he was the most educated Black person in the United States. He then traveled to Africa because he felt he had a connection. He believed that there is no spot of all this wide world to which my heart travels with more ardent affection than Africa. It is the land of my fathers. And because of this connection, he believed that Black America's relations with Africa were tied together, as King said, in a mutual garment of destiny. That the needs and desires of peoples of African descent transcended tribes, class, and boundaries. He taught in Liberia and became a citizen of that country. He made several trips back to the States during the Civil War to gain support for his endeavors in Africa, but folks around that time had other things on their mind. He left Africa in 1872 and came to live in Washington, D.C. In 1873, he became the rector, the pastor of St. Mary's Mission, a church established for the domestic servants of rich white Episcopalians. St. Mary's Episcopal Church still thrives and is on the campus of George Washington University. But he left there after some differences of opinion with one of the funders of St. Mary's. That funder was St. John's, Lafayette Square, the Episcopal Church, across from the White House, the site of President Trump's Bible-holding foray. Crumble and 50 members of St. Mary's founded St. Luke's, the first independently founded, designed, built, and funded Episcopal church for Blacks in Washington, D.C. We will be celebrating 147 years in November this month. He saw the church as the only social and educational institution controlled by Blacks, and therefore the church had and continues to have a responsibility for educational and social uplift of the race, in addition to creating mature followers of Jesus. St. Luke's became a religious center for Black Episcopalians and a center of cultural activity for DC's Black community. Crumble was also committed to the development of the genius and talent of the Black race. He founded the American Negro Academy in 1897, whose members were W.B. Du Bois, Archibald and Francis Grimke, Kelly Miller, and Paul Laurence Dunbar. He was a pioneer in the establishment of the Black tradition of scholarship, which was carried further by Carter G. Woodson through the establishment of the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History in 1915. Alexander Crummell died in 1898. And 5 years later, in 1903, W.B. Du Bois dedicated an entire chapter to him in the book Souls of Black Folk. Du Bois considered Crummell his spiritual father, and in Souls of Black Folk, Du Bois likened Crummell to a prophet. As we demand that this school be used for the betterment of the community it once served and will continue to serve, I offer this prayer. To the all-gracious Creator, you have created everything. Everything is yours and is to be used for the betterment of your people. Grant us grace fearlessly to contend against evil and make no peace with oppression. The evil and oppression that would see this building not used for the people who look like the person for whom it is named. Let us be like Alexander Crummell, the theologian, the educator, the Pan-African, who fought for the rights of his people to be educated and to share in all this country has to offer. And that we may fervently use our freedom, help us to employ it in the maintenance of justice in our communities. It is through these words that we now bless this building, that it may be a place of solace, a place of sanctuary, a place of love and joy. Amen.
Thank you so much, Reverend Gail. Thank you, thank you. We needed that. Thank you for our virtual blessing of the building. And we appreciate that education. It might be some things that you said that a lot of us didn't know. And now I welcome Dr. Greg Carr of the Howard University African American Studies Department to share his thoughts with us.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Rhodes. It's a real honor, as always, to participate in this ritual of remembrance and also this ritual of living action, acting the living now, as Martin Delaney, one of the great comrades and contemporaries of Alexander Crummell, would say. It's always an honor to be with not only the Friends of Crummell School, but with Empower DC, Sister Parisa, always. This is the only organization and the only community I know outside of the church. And I'm telling you, I want to thank you, Reverend Gail. That I need to sit in your sermons. That was a brilliant way. The ancient Egyptians would call it what? The opening of the way. The way that you open the way. This is the only community I know that consistently elevates the name and the living work and memory of Alexander Crummell. That brother, what he represents is so important to human history that it really can't be overstated. And, you know, I want to again join and lend my voice in any and everything I can do to continue the work of reviving that physical space, which anchors us not only in that memory, but in that longer stream of work. So I'll be very brief. And again, I want to emphasize the fact that if you're not out there making people aware of social media, what's going on right now, this is being recorded. Make sure that you direct people to look at this conversation and don't miss what Reverend Gail Fisher Stewart just did, because she laid out the arc of a person who, over the arc of his life, And this is no small achievement. He was arguably the most educated, professionally, institutionally educated person of African descent in the United States at his time. And so I'm going to keep this brief. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the school and the circumstances surrounding the founding of the school, because now that Reverend Gail has laid out the man's life, I want to begin with something that was written of him, as she said, in The Souls of Black Folk, 1903 and 1904. Dr. Du Bois, who was a Crummell acolyte of sorts, writes in The Souls of Black Folk, said he did his work. He did it nobly and well, and yet I sorrow that here he worked alone with so little human sympathy. His name today in this broad land means little and comes to 50 million ears laden with no incense of memory or emulation. And herein lies the tragedy of the age. Not that men are poor. All men know something of poverty. Not that men are wicked. Who is good? Not that men are ignorant. What is truth? Nay, but that men know so little of men. And I would say people know so little of people. And Du Bois closes, he said, I wonder where he is today. I wonder if in that dim world beyond, as he came gliding in, there rose on some wan throne a king, a dark and pierced Jew, who knew and knows the writhings of the earthly damned, saying as he laid those heart-wrung talents down, well done, while round the morning stars set singing. Du Bois wrote that about Alexander Crummell because he said the first time I met him at Wilberforce when I was on faculty there, I bowed before the man. And not because he was divine, but because you feel like you just needed to reduce yourself in his presence. And Alexander Crummell, as we heard, this is a brother who was so important that 8 years after this, they named a school for him in DC. And on dedication day, the DC superintendent of schools was there. Reverend G.W. Brent, who was the Ivy City Association president, was there. Now I'm wondering if that Brent is related to the Brent who built the church. I'm like, wait, John Wesley Cromwell, as we heard, very important brother who helped found the Bethel Literary Society. So, Metropolitan AME got to get involved in this work. He presented an oil painting that had been sent from New York, the Negro Society for Historical Research. That was Arthur Schomburg and those guys, J.E. Bruce, who came out of enslavement. They worshiped Alexander Crummell because he had started the American Negro Academy. And finally, the assistant superintendent for Negro schools gave the keys to the building to the community to open. And that was Roscoe Contling Bruce. He was the son of Blanche Kelso Bruce, the first Black senator out of Mississippi, the first to serve a full term. And ironically, his mother, Bruce's mother, was friends with Booker T. Washington, and that's how he got to be superintendent, because Washington blocked W.E.B. Du Bois, who was going to be the superintendent of schools in D.C., which speaks to the power of Crummell. Crummell united that group of Black leaders at that time that said, we need to have people learn how to work with their hands. That's that Booker T. Washington crowd. And he's united them with the Du Bois people who said, no, we got to study the books. So what you see is one man who inspired Marcus Garvey, inspired Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam, Malcolm X on one hand, Nannie Helen Burroughs, and Mary Church Terrell, who actually helped Bruce's mother conspire to block Du Bois. On the other side, he's got Du Bois, Arturo Schomburg, the Afro-Latinos, everybody comes together in Crumble. And there, Ivy City, that building represents the best of our tradition since we've been in our captivity. One name. And it took DC to say this name will be on this building at a time when they built that building by the B&O Railroad line, because that was the northeast edge of DC, and they didn't care. But who knew? Here come the gentrifiers. And now they have plans. Oh, but your plans can't block the plans of God. If you know about Alexander Crummell, you understand that everything he did, he put God first. Politics, nah, I got to put God first. Man spent 20 years in Africa putting God first, then came back to the United States, kept going. I'm going to end with this because it really, this assignment sent me into the books, and I found something. I'm like, my God, this is divine order. There was another Crummell School that was started, and this one was in Highland Park, Michigan. Those of you who know Detroit know that Highland Park is like the Lesotho of Detroit. South Africa is there, and Lesotho is in the middle of South Africa. Highland Park is in the middle of Detroit. And in the middle of Detroit, there was a school started called the Alexander Crummell Center for Worship and Learning. Imani Humphrey was the sister who was the school coordinator. I knew Mama Imani. She's an ancestor now. Started these African-centered schools. It served 1st through 8th grade. They taught academics, Black culture, world religions. They taught all these things, nutrition, arts, all the kind of things that work in the scope of who Alexander Crummell was. But the brother who was the director Reverend Anthony Thornell, and I know the Episcopalians know him, Father Kwasi, still alive, was ordained by John Walker, the bishop who was with the Black Episcopalians. We just heard Gail Fisher Stewart talk about, Reverend Gail Stewart talk. This is the other Alexander Crummell in Detroit, but it has a DC link. It is our sacred obligation to not only reopen that school, but to make that school and to make that center not only the center of Ivy City, but the center of the Black world and the human world in connecting the message and spirit of Alexander Crummell. This is in divine order, and I just want to thank you all and let you know that any and everything we can do, we're going to spread this message because we will win. And as James Weldon Johnson would say, till victory is won, let us march on. Thank you.
We will win. That was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Carr.
What do we want? A red. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? A red. When do we want it? Now.
I haven't been out of my house much in like the recent years due to the fact that I don't have a place to play. Kids have to play in the street with the risk of getting hit by cars.
My name is Miss Ann. I grew up in Ivy City. I went to this school, graduated. There was a rec center when I went to school here. This is land that needs to be used. We need a safe place to play. Hey, 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 we need a safe place to play. Antoine been fighting since he been 8.
And we've been fighting for the same thing for multiple years.
Us going out and marching like this is just the start of us getting recognition so that we can turn this school into something less than a waste of space, but more into a safe and helpful environment for our community.
On Ivy City, we're mighty, remember.
When you know something is right and you know you want to do something, then you stand up for your right.
Ivy City!
Yes, every time I see that video, it just thank you again. Thank you, Dr. Carr. That was amazing. And also Reverend Gail, that you all are amazing. Next, we will welcome our next speaker, Seydou Obiat Witherspoon, Director of the Children's Environmental Health Network.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you so much. It's just an honor to lend my voice in any bit that I can here for this amazing rally and quite basic ask. For over 30 years, the Children's Environmental Health Network, which has our office right here in the district, has been working to protect all children from environmental hazards and harm, promoting justice, their health, their wellness, and their safety. We know that children are more vulnerable to environmental harm than adults, especially when we consider their young biological systems, their lifespan, and their routes of exposures to air pollutants, contaminated water, contaminated food, and unhealthy communities. And we see the generational effects of that. There's a lot of evidence of this. Science and community experience shows us that air pollution is linked to harm of all children, especially when we consider when they're still in their mother's womb. Pregnant women are actually exposed to even low levels of air pollution and have increased risk of their children being born prematurely. We know that DC has some of the highest childhood asthma rates in the country. When I first came here to go to GW School of Public Health over 20 years ago, I was working on childhood asthma, and sadly, 2 decades later, it's still a huge problem, including within the residents of Ivy City. A report that CHN has been a part of, releasing in this last September, noted that the emissions from vehicles is just one of the leading contributors to childhood cancer. When we know better, we must do better and prevent harm to especially our youngest residents. We know that car and truck traffic surrounds all of DC, and the Ivy City community is unfortunately in the heart of various byways, leaving vehicle air pollution in addition to other polluting industries surrounding that further contribute to the serious health issues for many of the counties and communities' residents. While stressing the need for a revised thinking of our transportation challenges in the district, we also know from public health leaders that trees and vegetation in parks can help reduce air pollution by both directly removing pollutants and by reducing air temperatures and building energy use in and near any parks. These tree effects can actually reduce pollutant emissions and forming in the first place. We know that from a growing amount of science and just basic public health guidance and a variety of health professional associations that regular contact with green spaces has a defining role in human brain development. And that includes improved mental and physical health in children. So living near a park, a forest, or other green space can actually protect children's mental health later in life, as well as in the current. And children who grow up in these natural surroundings have up to a 55% lower risk of developing a mental disorder as an adult. We know that a vibrant community recreation center can have a stabilizing effect on the lives of young people. This is also evidenced very clearly by providing safe and adequate equipped spaces for physical activities, education, and the arts. Community centers instill discipline, healthy exercise habits, and homework and teamwork opportunities. They create the perfect setting for local mentorship programs, and they provide guidance and leadership for the development of the youth in the communities. The role of community recreation centers is especially critical for communities that lack the necessary facilities to keep their children in safe environments like in Ivy City. After-school programs provide a refuge for at-risk youth, helping to reduce crime rates and other costs to the community. By ensuring community youth have a healthy outlet for their creativity and energy, it's an important step forward towards long-term community improvement. Discipline, self-esteem, and leadership are all qualities that are fostered in youth-focused programs. We also know that when youth are invested in and have the communities to thrive, the community that they live in also thrives. Ivy City is deserving of the same health, safety, and equitable attention as we have seen in other parts of the city. The continuous demand for the Alexander Crummell School and grounds to be renovated and open as a vibrant place of learning, recreation, and pride for Ivy City residents is vital to the health and well-being of all DC, as well as especially the children of today and generations to come. Thank you so much for allowing me to add my voice today.
And thank you so much for giving us that. Right now, we will be joined by my neighbor and friend, Ryan Linehan, Commissioner ANC 5D01.
Thank you, Sabrina. I first off wanted to say thank you to everyone who has laid out the history and shared concerns about the health and well-being of the children. And I mean, definitely want to say thank you to Parisa and Empower DC for first off welcoming me when I moved into Ivy City. I know that I may have been a symbol of that gentrification. And I think it is important for anyone who moves into a neighborhood to first learn the history of that community that they're living within. And if it weren't for my neighbors like Sabrina and Miss Brenda that you saw speak at that first video, Miss Ann, really sharing the facts that this was a school, this was a space that is still needed. I have the privilege to be ANC for the past 2 years, and if it weren't for organizations like Empower DC and a neighbor like Sabrina who is willing to step up and do more than has ever asked. So I mean, we're in great hands, Sabrina. I'm so excited for you to take over. Again, I will be there for you 100%. But I want to say, for what I have done with the help of this community, we have laid out some resolutions, and the city has not responded as hastily as I'd hoped. I mean, obviously, who am I to have changed that? It's been 40 years that it's been sitting there like it has. I have seen some promises from some council members to say that, yes, we will reserve some budget allocation to see something be provided there at that school. But I'm just tired of waiting. I know the community is tired of waiting. These kids have been deserving for far too long. My wife and I opened up a little basketball court, 30 by 30 feet in our backyard. I see kids every day. It's, again, a privilege to speak with the kids and hear about their days. I mean, it's been a hell of a year. So it's even with that said, we have this 2 acres of space. We just see it there vacant. The kids, we've had DDOT come in and put some speed bumps there, so the kids are at least slightly safer in the street. But But again, it wouldn't be without the support of organizations like Empower DC that this community, Ivy City, would be thriving. And wouldn't say thriving, we're getting by. We need more help. We need the city to do what's right. But I mean, what Empower DC has done with their food drive since March, since the start of this pandemic, above and beyond anyone's calling. And I'm so grateful that I've been welcomed and educated by Parisa and Empower DC. We have recently, I guess, regarding some resolutions, just past November, we passed a resolution again directed at the Crummell School renovation and the decoupling of this current development plan, because we've seen 4 years later, nothing's moving. Before then, back in January, I believe, end of January, we had passed a resolution that stated what we would not want to see in this comprehensive plan, in this flume. And what we've seen is it was ignored. And the space is then being redistricted to develop in the more favorable ways that the development wants to see. Again, not okay. We first started out by doing this last, I think it was September of last year. Maybe could have been even 2018. It was just about immediately seeing some interim activation at the Crummell School site. Again, 2 acres of concrete, unused. We could easily be putting in some basketball courts, and this doesn't need to wait. So it is something that we've heard promises, but this community has heard promises before. The council has designated budget allocations, which they've thus taken away. So just tired of waiting. This community deserves action now. And if it weren't for organizations like Empower DC, I wouldn't be seeing much traction at all in benefiting my neighbors. So again, thank you so much, Reverend Gale. Always powerful to hear you speak. Dr. Carr, again, thank you so much. Amazing history. Ms. Witherspoon, thank you so much again, reiterating the health concerns that these kids are living in. And again, Parisa and Empower DC, thank you. And so excited. Commissioner Rhodes, you will be fantastic. I am excited for you to take over. Again, thank you so much, everyone. And again, share this.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Linehan and my neighbor and friend. We're going to tag team them and we're going to get it done. We're not going to stand still. We're not going to stand by, and we're not going to be muted or silenced. Okay, next, we have another neighbor of mine, Andrea Morgan. And if you're ready, Andrea? Yes.
I am.
Hello.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for all of your wonderful words of wisdom, all of your educational and spiritual uplifting moments. I bring you greetings just from the northeast side of Washington, DC. I come to you today humbly speaking on the behalf of the youth in our community. We have a great number of individuals who are funded by DC government under the Department of Disability Services. We want to make sure those individuals, especially during this COVID-19 moment, has a wonderful opportunity to embrace their community without going further into the city within their limits, to be able to function as well as learn some history, have fun within the community, not be sheltered within their homes, and to understand that it's a wonderful opportunity to be into the community. However, we want them to do this safely. And having this space, the rec center, the green space, the basketball court, just some educational components to do this within the Crummell Center, it will be a wonderful opportunity. Mayor, you have given us every opportunity that we need under a different private sector. Now we need the government to really just step in and do what you do best. Fund your city. Take care of your communities. Take care of the youth within our city limits. I hope that you hear our prayers, our concerns, and that you act on this. Move the budget so that we can open up this space. It has sat long enough. I pray that you have mercy upon your heart, that during this pandemic, this unprecedented time, we want to be able to give those children a place to play safely, not in the streets, we're trying to take them from the streets. We need to be able to educate them, rightfully so. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Very well spoken. That was beautiful. Yes, we want them to, if they want to play, it's by choice, not because they have nowhere else to play. Okay, next up we have Maya. Are you ready, Maya?
Yeah,
All
you
right.
can hear me, right? Okay, hi, I'm Maya Stuckey. I've been living in Ivy City for a large majority of my life, 15 years old, so about 15 years. And before the park became what it is today, I found myself spending a lot of my time there. I would go there with my dad a lot, and it was an actual park. The grass was maintained. There was nobody else. There was other children playing. It was a normal park. But now I can honestly say that I haven't gone to the park in years, considering the condition that it's in. I can't really call it a park anymore due to the fact that it's overrun with drug users and homeless people, and it's not a park. I can't go there because in a time like this with the global pandemic going on, I can honestly say that I have the fear of, getting hurt with a hypodermic needle, catching something from someone staying at the park, or finding something a child my age or younger shouldn't be seeing at a place called a park. It makes it even harder to play knowing that the closest place besides the streets that we live on is it's a daycare center where adults can get drunk while their children's play to have a membership. A membership more of like $100 or so. It doesn't make any sense. It only contributes to gentrification of our community, which we don't need. The only gentrification we need right now is gentrification helping our communities and helping the residents who live there rather than people stopping by to shop or buy groceries. By giving us a community center, I find it really helpful because myself, I ride a skateboard, and seeing other children ride bikes and whatnot in the streets, it makes me fearful knowing that some children don't have the common sense to, oh, I have to stop right here, but some cars are still coming down the street. It's a bad setup for an accident. While I will give credit where it's due, we have gotten speed bumps on the end of streets, which helps, but it doesn't prevent all accidents. Like Ryan was saying earlier, up at the rec center, there's a big patch of concrete where kids can go and play, and we can have somewhere where all of our parents will know where we are and we won't have something to worry about. But right now, Mayor Bowser isn't contributing to the specific community to help us figure out where the children are going to play at. And I'm really just calling on her to really just figure out the situation. I know it's a difficult time handling election and global pandemics and whatnot, but we are still a community in need, and we've been in need, not just at the beginning of this, but for years and years on end. It's really a simple solution. So I'm just really calling on her to help and figure out what we're going to do to give us a safer place to play. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya. We do have youth leaders in our community, and their voice will be heard, and they are speaking loud and clear. Next up, we have Morgan Robertson. Morgan, are you ready? Are you
Hi,
here?
sorry you guys can't see me right now, but I just woke up. But as for the community, like Maya said, I've been here my entire life. My older sister, who's now in college at George Washington, she lived her entire life. My mom moved around here when Reagan, who was my older sister, was around 3 months. So we've been here a very long time, part of the community. We love everybody here. And I've seen Ivy City change like right before my eyes. Like I've seen it just transform a lot, especially over the course of these past 5-ish years. And it has been getting gentrified. Old buildings have become apartment buildings and things like this. And, maybe it's not necessarily a terrible thing, but these people who are moving in, not only are they gentrifying, but they're also coming with kids who are going to add to the kids who are already here, who have no place to stay or who have no place to play anywhere. Like Maya said, the park, don't want to bring your kids there. It's not a good place to be. And to top it off, we have new people moving in with children who don't know what to do, who don't know where to go, who might not really understand the neighborhood as like the older kids or the kids who have been here longer do. So it's just a lot of kids here who just simply don't have anything to do. Like I can go outside and I'll see somebody playing with the basketball in the middle of the sidewalk, or kids playing football in the middle of the street, just hoping that a car won't come, or when a car comes, they have to stop and go to the side. And it's just a continuous cycle. And I just feel like the Crummell could be used for something so much better. And not only that, like if it were to get made, it'd be a great place for the kids to play, to hang out, to meet new people. We can use it for so many different things, and it could be something that the kids can look forward to when waking up, because I know, like, for me, there isn't much to do around here, and I walk like 15, 20 minutes up to Capitol Hill to go to the library, and every time I walk up there, I'm passing the rec with these kids, and they're playing and they're having their fun in their neighborhood. And it's like, just why can't we have something like that? Like, why do I have to walk so far to get something decent like that? And I just think that it could be used for something so much better than just sitting there as nothing. Yeah.
Thank you, Morgan. Thank you. Another one of our youth leaders. And again, share and tweet the mayor. And when she sees this, she will hear from everyone here in the neighborhood. Everyone is speaking the same thing. We need Crummell fixed now. Next, we have Leslie Fields with the Sierra Club. Hi, Leslie, you ready?
Good afternoon, everyone. I am delighted to be here, and thank you all so much for your advocacy, especially the neighborhood and everyone on this panel. I'm Leslie Fields. I'm the National Director for Policy Advocacy and Legal for the National Sierra Club. I'm also a proud member of the Empower DC Board. I'm also a proud member of the Board of the Children's Environmental Health Network. And I also live within walking distance of Ivy City. And I've been here for about 30 years. And even prior to that, when I came to DC in 1984 to attend Georgetown University Law Center. And so I've been hearing about the Crummell School for a very, very long time. And I think it's a damn shame. This community, the school needs to be utilized as a community anchor, not as just an excess piece of property subject to the whims of the city. I remember so many activities, so much work by the community to get this school, to get this area to where it needs to be. And the great history that we've just heard about underscores that even more. And so I remember also that this area and this school, the school has been designated by the DC Historic Preservation Board. This school is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. It's been put on the endangered list. This is an important anchor to this community. And it really is an outrage that it's just sitting there and the community cannot use it for its intended purposes as a community center, as a recreation space, as a place of learning and uplift, and to continue the legacy of Reverend Crummell. And so it should be a positive place. It should not be an eyesore. And it's really important that this school and the community are able to truly be part and lead the equitable development and be part of the decision-making for this property. And despite the city and the mayor dragging their feet on this community has been activated for a very long time. And it's very impressive and also very inspiring to other neighborhoods in the city. But it needs to be utilized properly. It is an environmental injustice, and that it's just sitting there not being used. And so there really is so many ways that this community has worked so hard. And it's really important because environmental justice is the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of people, regardless of their neighborhood, national origin, color, race, and income, with the respect to development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policies. And so it occurs when everyone enjoys the same degree of protection. And I remember in 2012 that the community and Empower DC had to fight to make sure that the Crummell School wasn't going to be used as a bus depot, that they were at risk of being subjected to mobile source pollution, they were at risk for more traffic, and that risk still remains. As long as that school is not utilized for a positive recreational educational place. And so I'm urging the mayor and the city to do the right thing and to understand that environmental justice is where we work, live, play, worship, and that this community deserves it. And again, as it's been said earlier, shouldn't be waiting until it's time to gentrify. It is time to, it's been past time to put this school right, put this neighborhood right. The community has been demanding it. The community has been active. And I'm very proud to support this effort. I'm very grateful to the neighborhood of Ivy City and all the supporters and friends for their longstanding fight. And you know, we will prevail. God bless you all. And thank you so much for everything you're doing. But it really is time. It's past time. And let's get this done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leslie. We appreciate your input. And that's right. A lot of times when we talk about Ivy City, the only thing people know us by is the Dream nightclub. And that's not fair and that's not right to us. We want to be known as a beautiful, historical, Black, thriving community. Okay, now we're happy to be joined next by Zachary Parker, Ward 5's elected representative to the State Board of Education. Hello, Zachary.
Hello, thank you for having me. I am happy to join you today and stand with Ivy City neighbors in defense of Crummell and what the community needs and has frankly been asking for many years now. I'm gonna keep it short, but I wanted to start just to make sure everyone understood. I have an opportunity to represent Ward 5 on the State Board of Education. The State Board is DC's only duly elected educational body. And so when we're talking about a school, a building that embodies what it does, Crummell serving as an anchor of the Ivy City community, it only makes sense that I would come here and stand with neighbors. What I see this as an opportunity to really invest in DC's future and really using this as a site to fund out of school time programming and making sure that there are enrichments for older residents as well as our youngest children, whether that's after school over the summer. And the reason why that's important is Ward 5 in many respects is not seen as an area of the city that's in a crisis, although we are. By every educational metric, Ward 5 is the third from the bottom of just about every list. And so when we think about student achievement, for example, usually it goes Ward 8, Ward 7, and then Ward 5. The potential for using the Crummell School as an out of school time base to provide enrichment programming and academic supports is critical when you think that for every $1 that the city could invest in those type of programs would translate to $3 in terms of payout. $1 of investment in after school time programming would translate to $3 on average in students' lifetime earning potential, students' performance in school, as well as a reduction in crime and violence over their lifetime. Research has shown us that out of school time programming, especially in the early years, in students' formative years, accounts for 2/3 of the academic achievement gap between our lowest income students and our highest income students. And so when we think about Ward 5 in the context of being the third from the bottom in the city in terms of student achievement, we should be thinking about how can we provide a comprehensive support system. And I can't think of many more ways that we could do that in Ivy City than investing resources and programs in the Crummell School. I also just remember a few months ago when the Black Lives Matter protests were going on and there was a lot of violence and destruction in the city. We heard a lot of preaching about respecting property and protecting property. And so it begs the question, which property do we care about? And to what extent do we care about property as it relates to who is it in service of and who it belongs to? And so, as has been mentioned on this call already, this school has sat here much longer than any of us and has served as an anchor and has so much potential. And so I proudly stand with neighbors here saying that there is more than potential and there is time for us to invest in this resource. And I want to announce that at our upcoming State Board of Education meeting, I will be putting forth a resolution formally calling on the mayor and our city's officials to move forward with investing resources in the Crummell School because it's long overdue. So again, I am proud to stand with you all in solidarity, acknowledging the significance of this landmark, the significance of the Ivy City neighbors' outcry for resources and investment, and acknowledging that this is well past due. So thank you for having me, and I'm happy to stand with you all today.
Thank you, Zachary. We appreciate it. And I'm glad you mentioned that because, yeah, if everybody will come and see the building, it's boarded up and it's been neglected, and that's how they've been treating us. They're neglecting us, and it is not fair, and in our neighborhood shouldn't look like this. You know, we have a lot of people coming to the smokehouse. We have a lot of people that's patronizing the businesses in the area, but no one is questioning why this 2 acres is sitting dormant and no access, no public access, no access for the community. Now we have a special treat. We have Remetta C. Freeman. She's a Crummell School alumni. Ms. Freeman, are you ready?
While I work on Ms. Freeman's tech, why don't you go to Rebecca?
Okay. Well, Rebecca Miller, we have, she's, one second. Okay, she's with the DC Preservation League. Rebecca, are you ready?
I am ready. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rebecca Miller. I'm with the DC Preservation League. We're the citywide advocate for historic resources. Obviously, our work is to preserve and protect and enhance the historic, the built environment of DC. And we were founded in 1971, and we're going into our 50th anniversary year. And when Parisa called me about this, you know, we had a great talk about all the work that the neighbors are doing with the Crummell School. One of the things that's really important is that, you know, you can see this image on your screen now of the building as it was originally built. And then as we go to the next slide, you can see where the addition was completed in 1932 and when it was a vibrant community resource for your neighborhood. And then the evolution of it after it closed in 1977 to when it was designated in 2003. You can see the picture in the bottom right of the building in a really decrepit state. And it's really important because of its architecture, the education behind it, African-American history and social history. And it's important to your neighborhood. And one of the things that's most important about that and having community resources is that historic preservation is really about preserving the history of a place through that gives the community its unique character. And historic preservation provides a link to the roots of the community and its people. That's why it's been really inspiring to hear the alumni talk about the school. Many of you probably don't know this, but I am a new mom. I have a 10-month-old, and I can't imagine my neighborhood not having a place for him to play as he gets older. As you can imagine, 10-month-olds are into everything and need to run. I can only imagine what he's going to be like when he is a teenager, and I wouldn't want him playing in the streets of DC and with the threat of a car or some other accident happening there. Preservation is so important to the city. In 1978, the DC Council unanimously voted that the protection and enhancement of historic resources was in the public interest, and they need to stand by that. The DC government is the worst steward of its historic resources, and I'm sad to say that you all are not alone. There are properties, especially school buildings, around the city that are neglected by the DC government. When we've worked and we've met with the Department of General Services, and we were like, you just need to put a roof on the building in order to secure it and protect the interior, they looked at me and said, I don't think we do roofs. And that's really, really frustrating when DGS is technically the holder of all the buildings. And so until the DC government can get its act together and figure out who's responsible for what, we're not sure where to go with this. But the Preservation League stands with you all in wanting this building to be rehabbed and put back into productive use. It does nothing for your community sitting there vacant. It does nothing for your kids. It does nothing for the future of Ivy City as it sits there vacant and boarded up. It could be a very productive resource. A community center is actually a really great use for this former school building. And we look forward to it being put back in use. And I would encourage you all to continue to be advocates for your community and for this particular building. We've gotten a little bit of leverage with Robert White over a few other buildings that the DC government owns. Primarily the Recorder of Deeds building downtown and also Langston School. And so I encourage you to talk to him as an at-large council member. He did put language in the budget about the DC government needing to respect their role as a steward of these historic buildings. And so you should really make every effort to try and bring him on board into your movement towards getting this building rehabbed and put back into productive use. If anybody hasn't, like it was mentioned before by one of the previous speakers, this is listed in DCPL's most endangered list for Washington, DC. It's an ongoing list of sites across the city. And those are buildings that we primarily focus on in our advocacy work. It takes a long time, unfortunately, in the city to get anything done. And I encourage you to continue working towards your goal because you will get there. I promise you, and we'll be standing there with you. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Yeah, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep fighting. And we appreciate all of you that are going to be fighting with us and are standing with us. Now, finally, I'll call our last speaker, someone who's dedicated his life to furthering civil rights and stood with our community to defeat the proposed bus depot at the Crummell School. Attorney John Bond.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rhodes. I speak with my mouth, I listen with my ears, I cry with my eyes, and nobody hears. I think of that when I think of Ivy City. We fought this fight roughly 10 years ago, and we won. At least we thought we won. In those 10 years, I've driven past Ivy City many times, and I've not seen what we thought we would see, and that's a place for young people, for recreation, for education, for learning, for developing skills. There was a recreation center within walking distance of my home, and Ryan talked about basketball. It had an indoor basketball court, and when it closed at night, we would go to the outdoor basketball court, and we would shine our lights on the backboard so we could play through the night. We would shovel the snow off the court so we could play when it snowed. And they had enough ground that we could play football in the fall, and we ran track on that same field, had races, and there was a baseball diamond nearby. So in the summer, we tried to emulate our heroes, Hank Aaron and Willie Mays. And those things, it kept us out of trouble, kept us off the streets, kept us focused on developing our minds, our spirits, our bodies. Ivy City, more than 100 years old, has a rich history, as has been described. But today, it suffers. It suffers from high unemployment, suffers from underserved medical help. Its infant mortality rate is one of the highest in the District of Columbia. Ward 3 has an infant mortality rate of about 5%. Ivy City's is 38%. And I was struck when I first went to Ivy City and met Parisa Neruzzi, who seemed to be there by herself at the time, some 10 years ago. And we talked about what we could do to stop those buses from coming to Ivy City that has the worst respiratory problem among its residents than any place else in the city, any place. And we took note of the fact that Ivy City was the development that the Union Station Redevelopment Corporation was trying to bring in there, $8 billion corporation, was not good for the people who lived there. They wanted to run those diesel spewing buses right down the streets of Ivy City. And it just didn't sit well for me. You know, those people in Ivy City could be my cousins and aunts and sisters and brothers. And so it struck home for me. I had asthma really bad growing up as a young person. And it was the recreation center and the fields and the open space and the sunshine that ultimately helped me to grow out of asthma. And when it snowed and the snow would melt, I would use those fields to walk and pretend I was playing football. Couldn't even breathe until I walked through those fields and ultimately ran through those fields and discovered I was a fast runner. So recreation and open space and a place to go and employment opportunities and training, all of that is so important to young people, and the city seems to ignore it. And when they ignore it, they don't seem to realize there are lots of laws that are implicated by ignoring it. And that's what we used then, and that's what we'll use now if we have to get the District of Columbia to do the right thing. There are District of Columbia Environmental Policy Act clearly applies. Any development $1 million or more, you gotta have an environmental impact study. They didn't do it then, and I suspect they haven't done it now. The Zoning Commission is bound to the Environmental Policy Act, and any changes, anything that they do is subject to that same Environmental Policy Act. One of the strongest arguments we made, Ms. Rhodes, was that the Advisory Neighborhood Commission Act applies, and it does. The community is entitled to notice and an opportunity to be heard, and when you're heard, you're entitled to great weight about your opinions. You don't have to cry with your eyes and nobody hears you. By law, they're supposed to give you an opportunity to be heard, and you have standing. Ms. Rhodes, we established that in that last case with those diesel spewing buses. You have standing to be a plaintiff in any lawsuit. The comprehensive plan, so clear. You can go through it, and the purpose the purposes to which Ivy City is to be put is very clear in the comprehensive plan, and you can't just ignore it, DC government. Can't ignore your own comprehensive plan when deciding what to do with Ivy City and when to do it. And there have been some recent cases since we last won that encourage us, the Durant case and then the DACA case, that courts don't just have to follow what these administrators decide, the fourth branch of government, these department heads decide who live in different places, decide what the young people in Ivy City should be subject to. We're encouraged by those cases. Open meetings and transparency. A lot is done in the dark in Washington, DC, but there are laws that require that when government officials meet, they have to meet in the open and be transparent and let people know. So we're just sending the word to the mayor and to the council and anybody who needs to hear it, that you got a lot of cranes in the sky. Everywhere you go in Washington, DC, you got cranes, but you're not doing anything for the people of Ivy City who have suffered long enough. And they've got friends. You've heard from a lot of them, and I'm among them. We will be there for Ivy City. And unless you follow the law and whatever you plan to do, we'll be in court again, as we were before. They had 12 lawyers for the Union Station Redevelopment Corporation, 4 from Covington and Burling, 8 from the city. I was the only lawyer back then, and we were in a meeting, and I told them, y'all got 12 lawyers against just me. And they said, so what? I said, you need more lawyers. You ain't got enough. And again, I want to thank Parisa Neruzzi for her long distance run in behalf of the people of Ivy City. And it's so good to see some of those folks from the past and that the team is still intact. Let's go. If they don't do the right thing, I'm ready to be helpful any way I can. And I stand with the community. It's a beautiful community, a great community, good spirit, lots of good people. And they deserve better than what the government has given them. And waiting for a decade before any rumblings of starting again, it's outrageous, unconscionable, unlike any place in Washington, DC. Ivy City deserves better, and we're going to make sure that happens. Right, Parisa? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Attorney Barnes. Thank you for the advice. It's a lot of things that's going on while we sleep, and we need to stay woke. We need to stay on it, and we can't allow them to do our communities the way they want to, because the residents have great weight as well as the ANC and the children, the community. And that's what we're hoping for. We have one more person that would like to speak if everyone have a little bit of time. This is Miss Ann. You ready? I'm ready. Miss Ann want to come on and say a couple of things about the Crummell School. We're going to switch seats, so give us a second.
Good afternoon. My name is Miss Ann Willis, born and raised in Ivy City, went to Crummell, graduated. And it used to be a rec center in the basement of that school. I took tap dance and ballet. I ran track for them. And the man who ran the rec center was Mr. Rodney Brown. And I worked with him. And as long as I can remember, Crummell always had something going on up there because we always did activities up there. And I always say, we're like the forgotten city because a lot of people don't do what they should do for us around here. We have great community people. And I moved away and then I came back. And my son and I live in a house on Capitol Avenue. And we know all the kids, my granddaughter and some other relatives, residents. We did like pop-up lemonade stands just to get the kids to come around and be, in the neighborhood. So I feel like they need to put a rec center up there, and the residents can help, provide services for them. I mean, I'm willing to volunteer and do what I can, but I just don't think we getting treated like other areas, like in Ward 5. It's like y'all just forgot about us, and it's like, I mean, we don't count. I don't understand that part, because other areas, they y'all go strong. We go strong too, but it's like we get no results. So that's my little bit that I have to say. Thank you. Appreciate it. You all have a happy Thanksgiving and stay safe and be blessed.
Thank you, Ms. Ann. Oh, you're welcome. And I want to thank all of our wonderful speakers. Again, we will not stop until we win. We will keep on pushing. We will keep on talking. We will keep on yelling and screaming. To everyone that's listening and watching, there should be no doubt in your mind that fixing Crummell now to serve the people of Ivy City and surrounding neighborhood is the right thing to do. Again, tweet the mayor, go on social media, make everyone aware of our fight, and it is a fight, and we're going to win. And please just keep joining us. If you want to, if you have any questions, please talk to Parisa, send them to Parisa at ivycity@gmail.com or empowerdc at gmail.gov. We ask you to stand with us over the next several months as we work to convince the mayor to include funding for the renovation of the Crummell School in her next budget, which she'll release in March. And again, please, please, please stay connected with us, help us in the fight, strengthen our community, strengthen your community. It's up to us. We have the power to make the change. We can prevent the gentrification by unifying and just uniting against being divided, being displaced, and being deprived. Thank you again for joining us today. This was so beautiful for everyone giving us your time. And as we close, we will share one more video and a piece from the young people in Ivy City. Ivy City needs a rep. Thank you.
I've been living in Ivy City, I could pretty much say all my life. I grew up there. I always been there. I haven't necessarily had an address there all the time. My grandmother lived there. Basically, Ivy City taught me how to handle responsible actions and how to go about things the right way.
Yeah, Ivy City. It's right off of West Virginia Avenue. It's right there by YSC, the little youth detention center. I feel something for Ivy City. Like if I go somewhere else, there's no love for it. But it's like Ivy City. It's like home. It's like everything good when you're around the city. Can't really explain. It's like a friendly environment. It's like, yeah, it's welcome. And I see the old heads on the block. I just think like, I don't want to be like them. And it's like, I'm a dark person a little bit. So in my mind, I'm thinking like, when they die, who gonna remember? Like, you ain't remember for nothing. I mean, cool, you had a little bit of money, but what's that at the end of the day? Like, I'm trying to be remembered for something. Something positive at the end of the day, not something your family could really speak on and be proud of you when you dead and gone. Not something they don't really hardly want to talk about or something they even ashamed to have your name even reference to that. So that's all.
We believe unequivocally that these young people from Ivy City, a poor black neighborhood in Northeast DC, know more about how to solve their community's most pressing challenges than all the professors at Georgetown, than the mayor of the District of Columbia, than any of us in this nation if we allow them to exercise leadership themselves.
We the people of Ivy City. Got my bros on the wheel, y'all committed. Tell the government stop playing us 50. We live from the stew, so I know you hear me. Ivy City, we really proud. We come from the slum, this is our lifestyle. Stay up on the streets cause they wild. Close my don't get fed, so we saying it loud. Ivy City need a rack. Ivy City need a rack. Crummell 6 dead with much neglect. So serve and protect might as well be a wreck. Ivy City need a rack. Ivy City need a rack. Crummell 6 dead and much neglect. So serve and protect might as well be a wreck.
They got 200 million for the streetcar, but they can't put a rack on my block, dog. Kids used to play ball on the block car. Money hungry, so I used to park little cars. Tell me how many times do we have to ask? Everybody got one, do we have to be last? We in the capital city, on Capitol Ave. The hood, Miss Mary, we need capital bad, and it's sad. But the real Ivy City here to take you to task. We don't care if you mad, we gonna put you on blast. How you like that? I lost my brother to these Ivy City streets, just trying to be the best that I could be. Kids don't need to play in the streets, cause the city can't control their heat.
We the people of Ivy City. Got my bros on the wheel, y'all committed. Tell the government stop playing us 50. We live from the stew, so I know you hear me. Ivy City, we really proud. We come from the slum, this is our lifestyle. Stay up on the streets cause they wild. Close my don't get fed, so we saying it loud. Ivy City need a rack. Ivy City need a rack. Crummell 6 dead with much neglect. So serve and protect might as well be a wreck. Ivy City need a rack. Ivy City need a rack. Crummell 6 dead and much neglect. So serve and protect might as well be a wreck.
Ivy City need a rack. Kids running around, don't really respect. It's hard in the hood, so we get it out the mud. Long live Big P, everything jug. Wish I can bring my men back for one day. We post up on the one way, hit city council on Monday, then rediscuss it on Wednesday. Like, what y'all gonna do? It's me and my crew, we ain't come with no suits, but y'all already know what we came here to do. Ivy City need a rack, everybody knows it's true. What y'all gonna do? It's me and my crew, we ain't come with no suits. All this new development is looking brand new. Can anybody tell me why the government fool?
We the people of Ivy City. Got my bros on the wheel, y'all committed. Tell the government stop playing us 50. We live from the stew, so I know you hear me. Ivy City, we really proud. We come from the slum, this is our lifestyle. Stay up on the streets cause they wild. Close my don't get fed, so we saying it loud. Ivy City need a rack. Ivy City need a rack. Crummell 6 dead with much neglect. So serve and protect might as well be a wreck. Ivy City need a rack. Ivy City need a rack. Crummell 6 dead and much neglect. So serve and protect might as well be a wreck.
Yeah, I just want to shout out our producer, man, Bomani, man. Shout out the third one, man. Shout out to Miss Parisa. Shout out to the whole gang, Ivy City, man. Shout out to Big P, we miss you, bro.
Only Big P. We the people of Ivy City. Got my bros on the wheel, y'all committed. Tell the government stop playing us 50. We live from the stew, so I know you hear me. Ivy City, we really proud. We come from the slum, this is our lifestyle. Stay up on the streets cause they wild. Close my don't get fed, so we saying it loud. Ivy City need a rack. Ivy City need a rack. Crummell 6 dead with much neglect. So serve and protect might as well be a wreck. Ivy City need a rack. Ivy City need a rack. Crummell 6 dead and much neglect. So serve and protect might as well be a wreck.
Hey, I love it. I love it. I love it. And those young fellas are still around, and anytime we need them, they come and they are willing to offer their services anytime we ask them. One more thing, we have Minister Thompson. He's a little sideways, but he's just going to get
a little better.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Sabrina, thank you. I'm so sorry I am late. I'm so embarrassed, but I am so happy to at least join you for this short moment. Just wanted to encourage everyone to keep doing the right thing and holding ourselves accountable, holding officials accountable. To do business as usual is unacceptable for our community. There are many needs, and we just need to keep fighting. And again, I encourage all of us. This is a great endeavor, and because we're talking about changing lives, improving lives, and many hurting people. We were out Saturday and actually last week, a couple of days walking the community, and we need recreation. You know, that comes from the idea of recreating ourselves so that we can deal with this pandemic. You know, this is not a sprint. This is a marathon, and you run marathons different than sprints. And the main thing we need is endurance and perseverance. And so let's continue to do what we're doing. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Bree and Parisa and all those who are working to do the right thing.
Thank you, Minister Thompson.
All right. Stay encouraged.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
So that wraps up our rally. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, everybody that spent time with us. We really, really appreciate it. And again, we're going to keep on pushing. We're going to keep on fighting. It's strength in numbers, and we're going to do this, and it's not over until we win. Thank you. Parisa, would you like to say something?
I just want to say thank you to everybody. Sabrina, you did a fantastic job leading us today. All of our speakers, we're so grateful for your support. Please do go to empowerdc.org/fix_Crummell_now for an easy way to tweet the mayor. But yes, as Sabrina mentioned, the mayor will release her budget in early March, and over these next few months, we will be working to elevate our request, demand, whatever you want to call it, our plea that she do what's right, what should have been done decades ago, put the money in the budget to restore Crummell School as a community center, a park and play space, and separate it out from this unwanted failed development scheme that she had selected 4 years ago, against the community's wishes to begin with. So thank you, everybody. Please do reach out to us if you want to play a bigger role in this fight. Feel free to email ivcity@empowerdc.org or Parisa, Parisa @empowerdc.org. And just also stay tuned for more rallies and opportunities to stand in solidarity. Thank you to all of the Friends of Crummell. Not all of them spoke today, but we have a great core group that meets regularly and has been serving the community every week with food distribution. They did a great job testifying at the hearings earlier this year and did win $1 million in the budget to have some type of interim recreation in Ivy City, which is huge. It's the first time the city council has put anything specific for Ivy City recreation in the budget for probably decades. So we are making headway, but we cannot stop until our full mission is won. And we do this in honor of Reverend Crummell, in honor of all of the people of Ivy City who've come before us, many who have had the opportunity to work with over the last almost 20 years myself. And I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. And we will be in touch very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.